Welcome, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, welcome. All right, I think we have quite a decent amount of people joining. And then I will just kick kick off for the session today. A quick introduction about myself. I am Cash. I am the moderator of today's session, supporting Myrna with this interesting workshop she's prepared for all of you. And if this is the first time you're joining the ThoughtLab are interactive webinars where we have all different speakers, facilitators sharing research projects, models, or lessons they've learned on L&D relevant topics. And during the session, we will dive into learn the new insights with each other in the community. And for today's session, we have Myrna from Trainers Toolbox. She works with other trainers on their fundamental and advanced skills as trainer, including storytelling. And that's why we're here today. And I will hand it over to Myrna to kick off the session.
Cool. Thank you so much, Cash, both for introducing the session and also for being the support today. Hi, everyone. So great to have everyone join. We had a lot of interest in this topic, which is really cool and a bit challenging. Let's see how we work it out. I hope we will have time in this hour and a half to really tackle that practical side of things. So to kickstart the topic in a bit curious side, I want to ask you, what is one story that you truly like? And it can be a book, it can be a movie, it can be a story you remember from ages ago, whatever. You can answer by using the link in chat and the code. You will need to enter the code once you go to the link. So do take a minute to think and do tell us what is one story you truly, truly like. You can also use the phone and the QR code that's on the screen if that's easier, or the link that's in chat. And I'll ask you, Cash, maybe in a minute or two, just to copy the link maybe a few more times if somebody else joins us and if they missed it. Yes, as Rach is just saying. So we'll keep the link going. This is a very
Just
quick one, The Tale of Two Wolves.
just the name or the title of the story.
Whatever, it can be a plot or the name or the title or whatever you feel like sharing. Thank you for the question. Okay, so we have few quick answers. Those are probably the most passionate stories. Okay, let me check them out. Tale of Two Wolves, Cinderella, Les Miserables, I cannot pronounce proper French. Something that's relatable, like mom stories, Eat, Pray, Love, Little Prince, Cinderella, Picking Up Starfish on the Beach. Ooh, I don't know that one. Sounds awesome. Any underdog story, Inception, Knives Out, movies kicking in, Momo, The Hero's Journey. Okay, The Hero's Journey, is that a specific story as well? You can comment in chat. Or are you talking about the structure of the story that's known as Hero's Journey? Any story that makes me feel an emotion, Men's Search for Meaning. Wow, awesome. I would not think of that as a story. Thank you for opening my thinking as well. Okay, so the prompt is on the screen as well. It's really just a story that you really like. So it can be anything really. Please access it through the link. You can use your phone or you can use the browser. Yeah, Cash will keep on LinkedIn going. It can be really just an association on a story you vaguely remember or specific name, whatever you feel like. So Batch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, Coco, Pixar movie. Project Hail Mary. Okay. Oh, I see we'll all have a list after this to go and check out. Aladdin 1 and 2. Resilience, Regrowth, and Renewal. Love Origin Story and Hero's Journeys. Gentleman in Moscow, Lord of the Rings, The Count of Monte Cristo. Oh, I love that one too. Travel stories. I like the story of the movie Ghost. Beauty and the Beast. Legally Blonde. Okay, make notes for those you don't know. This needs to be checked. Book Into the Magic Shop. Ellen MacArthur's story about being the youngest woman to sail around the world on her own. Wow, cool. Heidi the Mountain Girl, Pursuit of Happiness, Origin Stories, Ghost in the Shell, the animation movie from 1996, Stormlight Archive, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Oh, it took a while for Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter to show up on the list. I'm surprised. Schindler's List, underdog story, sports stories about overcoming challenges. We have one more Inception. We're going to have a movie night after this. Story of how I realized I was engaged to my now husband. Ooh, this is a teaser to a story we all now want to know. Perfume by Patrick Suskind. Sports stories. We said that one already. The Man Who Was Thursday. Okay, Matrix. Oh my God, that's a long list of stories. Now we are 130 in the call, so the list continues. If you just join us, there is a link in chat to Miro. Cash, maybe you can copy just one more time, and also QR code on the screen that you can use to add your answer to what is one story you love. It can be a specific one, it can be a bit general, whatever comes to your mind. We have Sound of Music, Good Omens, Dead Poets Society, Wall-E, Under the Same Moon, K-pop Demon Hunters, that one I don't know, Inside Out, Lion, Harry Potter, any Tim Burton. Yeah, that's the magic also of storytelling that Tim Burton shows. Cool. Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, love that. Wonder Years, 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I don't know that one. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. But I'm a cheerleader, a beautiful mind. Okay, we have a few more coming. I'll stop reading here. I will still leave it on the screen in case you want to get new ideas. I will also give you the link at the end to get all the answers as well. But thank you so much for sharing those so far. So I want to say that one of the things that really hits between these stories is they're so different. It's like the list of everything, from stories to kids, to big sagas, to very personal and specific stories. And we relate to all of them in a very, very different ways. And I'll stop with the screen while I give a bit of an intro. So today, what we really want to explore is what is that makes all these stories amazing? And we're not going to cover every aspect that makes them amazing, because of course that would be much longer exploration. But what we want to explore is really what are some of the elements that make these stories amazing, and how can we incorporate them in our own stories? And here is how we're going to go about this. We're going to first start first with a little intro on the side of why stories matter, especially for us in the context of learning and workshops. Why are stories actually important? Why would we care about stories in the first place? So start thinking about that one as well already. Then I'm going to give you just a brief overview of big picture. And that is, what are the three aspects we want to consider as storytellers that are our different skill sets that we want to start developing? Because again, we won't cover everything today, but we want to have a bit of that big picture. And then we're going to go really practical and really tangible into two specific elements or techniques that help us deepen and enrich our stories. And for these two elements, we're going to play it in the breakouts. That will be in around half an hour, maybe a little bit less, and it will be optional. So what we will do, we will have two different examples and two different tasks to play with. And some part of the breakout groups will play with one technique, and the other one will play with the other technique. And then we will come back together and we will share just a few examples of stories that you build in the breakouts. And then we're going to also briefly share and analyze what were those two elements and how do they influence and impact the stories. Now, in the elements I'm sharing with you today, I really wanted to go for the biggest, quickest wins. What is that toolbox that you can really implement right away without understanding the magic of storytelling and the depth of hero's journey? What are really practical tools that we can leverage right away, and we will already do it on the call, and hopefully you can use it right after as well. Now, if somebody would like to skip the breakouts, that's totally okay. Please do. We prefer you to skip it than to hate it. No, even though it would be great to have you there and actually, explore things together. It will be small groups, and you will just have a chance to play with some techniques and with other people with their stories. But if you do want to skip it, what you can do is you can rename yourself in Zoom by adding a sign plus before your name. And please do that already now. It will help Cash, who will help me organize the breakouts to make sure you don't end up there by accident. How you can rename yourself in Zoom is that you scroll over your video with the mouse, you click on three dots and then rename, and then just add plus before your name. So if you do that, I will still remind you before we jump into the breakouts, but if you do it sooner, you will help us manage it. So if you want to do that, not in the chat, please, in your name, rename in the Zoom by scrolling on your video, clicking on three dots, and then changing your name there. Now, to skip these little intros and logistics, let's go straight into our next question, which is, what makes stories truly great? What is that makes stories, before we go into what makes them great, why would we care about them in the first place? In the context of learning, in the context of workshops, why do we care? And you can use the same link. That's the last time we're using it today, but we still need to use it one more time. Kesh, could you please copy it in chat just one more time in case somebody joins us a bit late. And here we just use a word or so, or a couple of times a word. What would you say for you? Why would you use stories in learning? What would be your compelling reason to actually leverage them and use them? Still give you a bit of time, even though connection is shining bright already, taking all the attention. But let's see what else we get. Okay, we'll still give it like 10 seconds and then I'll read through. Maybe not through all of them this time, but I'll scan through and see what's there. Okay. I guess it got tiny bit more peaceful now, the word cloud. So I'll read out the main thing. So we have connection shining really bright. So somehow having participants connect more to us, or maybe to the person to the person who is sharing the story, and then also creating connection within the group if they're sharing the stories together. But then we also have some of the big highlighted keywords, emotion and emotions. So that one would be way bigger even if it landed in the same one. Then we have memorable, making things memorable, absolutely huge one. Stories are very related to brain-based learning, to make things more sticky, to make things more memorable. And then we also have retention, quite connected, and then relatable and relatability. And I'm so glad that in the end, I didn't choose relatability as one of the techniques to work with today, as you named it already and you know it. But I chose to play with some others. But that's one big one with which we also work when we work with storytelling, to really consider how can we make our stories more relatable. Because the goal of the story is not that it's amazing and it blows everybody's mind and everybody's amazed, but they can't relate, because then it's not emotional, then it's not personal. The goal of the story is really that people can recognize themselves and in some way also relate to that. Many more cool ideas here. Thank you for sharing. I won't read through all of them as they're quite long, but I will share with you a little bit of just high level, just 5 things that make stories important for learning. And again, these are just some, and you mentioned many of these. I just want to highlight them one more time because they really mean a lot for learning. One of them is stories help us craft that emotional connection. That can be between trainer and participants, that can be within the group, that can also be towards the subject or the problem or the topic, but they're really crafted that in some way that evoke emotions for us. And that's something that is really a superpower in the context of learning, because it makes people care more, it makes them motivated, it makes them engaged. On the second hand, there is definitely that aspect of memorability. When it's a story, when it has a sequence of events, and we can visualize many of these things, and they're catchy and interesting, it will make the concept way more memorable for us. So that means that in training, we especially want to consider how do we use stories especially in bits and moments that we really want to highlight and that really want to stand out. And we can use stories as a whole structure for our event, building our event almost like a journey. That's a big one and complex one then, but really beautiful approach as well. Or we can use them as a tool that we plug in per need, where we want to have more of memorability, more of engagement, more of that emotional connection, even more colorfulness, you could say. But there are a few more benefits. The third one, it's also about explaining complex ideas simply. Sometimes when we have an idea that's quite abstract, if we start explaining it in abstract terms, well, first of all, people will care less, which we covered already. They'll be a bit less emotional about it. But it might also be more vague. It might not be specific enough that they can really imagine. So in these cases, stories can be really helpful to actually clarify that concept through an example, through a metaphor, or maybe through like a fully blown story that really paints a picture of that concept. And then we also have the aspect of empathy, especially if we, and that's quite connected to emotional connection as well. But empathy is also one aspect where we can really have people more engaged and more involved because they connect with something that normally wouldn't be their concern or their problem. So in a way, we can build that motivation and we can build more empathy within the group. And then finally, even though us often as learning and trainers and facilitators, we often want to think first about how can I use the story for learning, really within the learning process. But in reality, for all of us, it can be really impactful and helpful if we also leverage stories in the way we talk about our background or our history as a trainer or facilitator, the way we design our CV or bio, the way we talk in marketing to our collaborators and clients and customers. And then, of course, going back to that part, also in facilitation, in workshops and so on. But we can really also zoom out from that and not use it only in the narrow context of workshops, but we can also use it in this extended way in all different aspects of our life and business. Now, this is why we want to use stories more. But when we want to, let's say we say, oh, and I really want to get better as a storyteller. I'm assuming most of you saying that as you're being here. I'm saying that as well. I think it's an eternal journey. But when we say that, the first question that comes to mind is, okay, how do I work on that? And because before we dive into specific tools and techniques, I do want to give you a bit of that big picture view. And that is basically to work on our storytelling skills, we really need to consider three different elements. If I want to be a better storyteller, here are three groups of skills or things that I need to develop. One of them is, how do I get better at finding my stories, at finding ideas for stories, at recognizing opportunities for stories in my life, and also in general, also in the books, in libraries, in different story banks. What are my ways of finding right story for right workshop and for right occasion? How do I build that library or bank of my own stories, and how do I keep building it, developing it, and enriching it? And then we have the second aspect, and that is, how do I craft a story? How do I construct a story that it makes sense, that's engaging, that's pulling you in, that's really in some way inspiring, that makes people curious, that takes them on a journey, that is colorful and has different ups and downs, and it is not just flat and blank. And that can come with more or less complexity. For example, some of the stories mentioned in the intro, like Monte Cristo or Lord of the Rings, they're very complex stories. There is like a lot to unpack there. But we can also have much simpler story that's still engaging. And here what we want to learn and discover is really some set of rules and ways and tips and guidelines and techniques to keep in mind for constructing that story. One of these could be hero's journey, one of the techniques that was mentioned by somebody in the intro already, but that's just one of many approaches we can take. And there is no ultimately one right checklist. There's simply many different techniques we can use to construct our stories. And then there is the third one, that is that art of telling that story and making it engaging and communicating it engaging way, in building a bit of suspense, in really painting a picture as we're telling it, in choosing specific words. So all these three areas are huge things to learn and huge things to discover. They're also things with which I work also in the context of full 2-day course or like longer, bigger ways of unpacking them. I also shared in Trainers Toolbox podcast many different tools, techniques, approaches for each of these. And I can also share, but remind me at the end so I don't end up typing now. I can also share the name of maybe one book for each of these elements that can help you strengthen it. So each of these we can explore and build up way more than what we are doing today. But today what we're going to play is in the area between construct and tell. A bit more on the side of construct, but in reality techniques we're going to work out today will be useful for both of these areas. Now, the last thing you need to know before you launch into building your stories and tackling challenges is that one of the things that we cannot escape if we want story to be good is giving it a bit of a structure. And that structure can be very elaborate. Okay, so I see Rach's comment, books, please. Okay, let's do this. While you're in the breakouts a bit later, I will write the book names in chat because I didn't put them in Miro. So when you come back from breakouts, I will share them with you there, just not to diverge now too long into me blabbling. And instead, I would prefer to give you time to work out some examples. Rach, please remind me after breakouts if I don't do it, but I think I will remember. Okay, so when we work out the story, when we start constructing a story, there is one little thing that we cannot avoid, and that is to think about structure. Structure is not our topic today. Instead, we're going to play with two different powerful techniques, but structure is one thing that if you don't respect it, it gets story broken. So we can have very elaborate structures to work with story, like hero's journey and different bigger ones. But we can also have very basic structure for a story. And that's something we call story arc. And it basically says that every story kind of has three parts or three acts. First one, where in some way we set up a story. In some way we introduce the character. Maybe we introduce their desires or relationship within it. Something that will give the plot, once we introduce it, meaning. Otherwise, nothing will be clear if we jump straight into the action. So in some way, setting up the stage with Act 1. And then we have the second act, which is the main part of the story, which is really about drama, an action, confrontation, a character that embarks on a journey that has a certain goal, that's trying to achieve something and encounters obstacles. If there is no conflict or tension of some kind, there is no story. And then there is a third aspect, and the third aspect is resolving the story, which is in some way ending or solution or resolution of that conflict. So for your task today, you won't be working on a story structure. Instead, you'll work on two techniques that are more related to engagement and tension in a story, but you do need to keep this in mind not to break it. So let me give you a story that has a solid structure, but it is still a very boring story and very short. It's a story about Peter who wanted mushrooms. And it goes like this. Peter wanted mushrooms. He went into the woods to find some. He didn't really feel comfortable in the woods, but he still kept going. He found some mushrooms and he went home happy. This is short and very boring story, even though it has a conflict and it has three acts in a way. Peter wanted mushrooms, he went for them, encountered obstacles, was a bit afraid, came home. Now, this story can sound completely different if we just add some details and techniques. I'll give you an example, and this is very spontaneous version, so bear with me. So let's say Peter woke up one morning and he really craved some mushrooms. And he imagined, oh my God, how wonderful would it be to cook a wonderful porcini mushroom soup. And he imagined this warm soup that almost warms his heart, that smells amazing, like its perfume spreading through the whole house. And He was so, like, he almost started salivating a bit. He was like, I wish I had that soup, but I don't have any mushrooms. So Peter got up on a cold autumn day from his warm bed, and he decided to go into the cold forest to find the mushrooms. He went into the forest, and at first he was amazed by the beauty. He saw these little specks of light entering between leaves and between branches. He almost felt this sense of adventure. He could feel a bit of wind on his skin. He could feel the beautiful birds singing, and he could really, sorry, chat distracting me a bit. I'll close it. No. He could really sense this beauty of his environment, and he was like, oh, I'm going on an adventure. I will find my mushrooms, and I will truly enjoy my soup. But then at some point, something shifted a bit. Breeze turned into a bit of a cold wind. The dark shade of a cloud came across the forest, and he could hear this strange bird shrieking into the background. And he was like, ooh, this forest doesn't feel so good anymore. And he thought of his warm bed, and he was like, damn you mushrooms, I don't even want you anymore. I just want to go back to my bed. But then Peter was like, no, that's not the type of man or boy that I want to be. I will be brave. And he stood up a bit, he straightened up, he took a deep breath, put his chin up, and he was like, I'm doing this. And he continued going down the forest path, peeking behind every bush and under every tree until he could truly find the mushrooms he came for. Soon, he was on his way home with a basket of mushrooms full with a beautiful perfume that he imagined in the morning, and all excited and happy about going home and getting his beautiful soup. Now, this was an amazing story, but it was way better than the first one. I hope you agree on that one. Why? Nothing changed. You didn't care about Peter any more than you did originally. The content of the story didn't change. What changed were two things. And I'm not going to name them now because, surprise, surprise, you will play with them in the breakouts. But after the breakouts, we will name them also based on your stories and on this story. What happened? What shifted this story from not so exciting into quite exciting, or fairly more exciting than the initial one? Now, what we will do in the breakouts is I will share with you two different tasks. First thing that you need to know when we split you in breakouts is that you will need to remember what is your room name. I think when you're in the room, it still says the name on top. Well, name, number, right? Because it's breakout room 1 or 2 or 3 and so on. So you need to know your number because the even group numbers, so 1, 3, 5, 7 and so on, the opposite from that. So even groups, so 2, 4, 6, 8, they will have one task, one secret task, and the odd group numbers, so groups 1, 3, 5, and so on, will have a different task. So when we join you the breakouts, remember which number is your group, or at least hope other people in your group will remember. And then within that group, go to the link for the task that matches that number. If you're in a group that's odd number, 1, 3, 5, and so on, go to the odd link. If you're in the group for even number, go to the even number link. In the link instructions, you will have 2-3 paragraphs of instructions of what you need to build together or what technique you need to use. I'm purposefully not sharing them now, not to distract you with the other task. So read yours. Maybe you can read it together as a group. Maybe one person can read through. Don't worry about the details, but really think about the core of what the activity is trying to achieve. I see a lot of things happening in chat. I'll check them before we drop you in the breakouts. So you don't want to get distracted with details, but you do want to take maybe 2 minutes together as a group to read through your task. At the end of the task, there will also be 2 lame stories. One about cake and one about train. They're your initial stories that you will work with. You can choose which one you prefer as a group. Don't overthink it. Just pick one. And then your task will be to apply a certain technique as a group, 4 or 5 of you together, to really play and explore how can you make that story better and richer. And you will get a lot of ideas from other people in your breakouts, and that might as well be the most valuable thing you get today for some of you. So if you can join breakouts, but you're just not totally in the mood, I would still encourage you to go through that a bit of obstacle and join them. But if you cannot, that's also totally fine. We will share some bits after, but I think the value you get in the group through working with the techniques together with other people will give you the biggest value. So we will do breakouts for 20 minutes, and then we will be back in the shared space. In the meantime, if you have any question, you can come back and ask, but we will pause the recording for that part and nothing will be happening in the main room while you are in the breakouts. And so if there is something you're confused, you can always come back and ask. Cash, do we have the breakouts ready? And does anyone have a question? I'm checking chat, but it's all about different stories.
We find everything we need in the breakout room, right?
You will find it in the links that I will share in chat now. Thank you for asking, so I don't forget to share it. So one link for odd, one link for even group instructions. And you can always come back if you have any questions, but I think it will be clear. So your goal is to take one of the 2 short stories that you have in the instructions and to change it accordingly to instructions for your task and for your technique to make it better, to make it more engaging. Initial story has 3 sentences. The end story will probably have around 7 sentences. No strict rule, but like don't build it into Lord of the Rings. Build it into something, in few sentences, how can you add more engagement? And then when we come back, some groups will share, but not many, as we are so many, just a few. But you do need to be ready for your group to share. So please keep notes and write the story. You can open a link on Google or you can have someone scribing it, whatever is easiest for your group. Final chance for questions. Well, not final. You
The
can come
link, the link will probably disappear once we're in. So when we're in the
It
breakout rooms,
shouldn't. In Zoom
okay.
now, it shouldn't.
Okay. We will
I
let
don't
you know
think
if it disappears.
Yeah, I think it's not the case. But if it is, well, if I send it on yeah, it doesn't. It used to did that in Zoom, but now it's fixed. So, thank you also for everyone sharing. Well, if you have any problem finding it, just come back. You'll have 20 minutes. So if you need a minute to come back, ask anything. That's cool. Okay, we're good. Yeah, Cash. See you in 20 minutes. We will give you 2 minutes warning.
The rooms are open and everyone should be receiving an invite to your room.
Let's see. So we should only have people with pluses. A lot of people with pluses, though. I'm glad we gave that option. Yeah, if you have a plus, we still needed to put you in some room, but just don't join it, basically. So you don't need to work on it. But we couldn't avoid putting you, but that's the quiet room for anyone who doesn't want to work on active task. I'll just stop the recording or pause it. Yeah, did you close them?
Yep, closing it now.
Oh yeah, okay, I see now, 60 seconds.
This meeting is to be.
Okay, 30 seconds for everyone to come back. So if you're back already, you can use the moment for a nice deep breath, maybe a quick stretch to recover from hard work. And in 20 seconds, we will hopefully hear some stories, good or not. We are ready for anything. Cool. Now everybody should be coming back. But the Zoom is mean and dropping people back one by one, so it takes a bit of time. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody is back now. I know what you're going to say if I ask you, was that enough time? So I'm not going to ask. Instead, I'm going to follow up with what I promised before, with what Rach asked. So I see also some screens shared. Okay. So I want to share the 3 books that Rachel asked before. So to be honest, all these books are about everything, and there are many more good books that you can dive in about storytelling. But I tried to align them a bit per find versus craft versus tell your story. For finding, I would say Storyworthy by Matt Dix is really, really good. It's good for everything. I would say it's the first go-to book from storytelling I would recommend. And I'm writing them in chat as well. Then we have for crafting, we have Resonate by Nancy Duarte, really, really cool. To Elena, I won't be sharing Miro board link now because we won't be using it anymore. But you can, I'll give you a link at the end to go to the materials and pick them up. But we won't go there now because now we'll be focusing on something else no, instead. So we have Storyworthy, we have Resonate. Resonate is especially good if you want to incorporate more in business setup. Then it's really, really powerful. And then Talk Like TED, that's more like for talking and more for speaking and then incorporating stories in that. But there are many more cool books, and I shared quite a few also in one podcast episode. So I also put link to podcast in chat. And if you go for episode 12, you will find that one. Okay, now let's hear your stories. We can't have all the groups share for obvious reasons with 100 people and half an hour left, but we will have some groups share. I hope that's okay with you. We will share it. We will nominate the group with the spin wheels according to your group number. If you really don't want to share yours, not that happy, that's okay. We will still ask you, and then you will say, thank you, we would prefer not to share. That's totally okay. But we want to hear maybe 2 groups sharing, maybe even 3 or 4 groups if we have the time. So on the left side, we have odd groups, which their task was related to, well, I shouldn't tell, right? We should tell them first and then we will guess the task. So let's see from the odd groups, if that group wants to share. If not, don't worry. Group 5. Would group 5 be willing to share their story?
That's really funny because that's us, and I already put our link in the chat.
Cool. Could you read it? Because we're really focusing on like telling stories.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. There's so many people in here. I don't know where my partner, it was just 2 of us. I don't know where my partner went.
I'm there too, but now I think we presented together. I guess I
You want to read it?
I can read it. I don't know
Okay.
where I am here right now, but
I don't know.
okay. Leah wanted to bake a cake for a friend. No,
Oh, that's, yeah, no, that's not it. It starts after that one.
It starts one line later. Here we go.
Yeah.
So, no, we messed up something here.
Yeah, it's just this line. Go ahead.
The story is moving as I'm presenting it, so
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry
I
for
moved
that.
it. Go ahead.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Leah loves her friend so much that it makes her belly tingle. She can feel that. So she was so excited to share her passion of baking with Earl. Earl also makes her tingle, but like not in her belly, but in her heart. So lifted by that excitement, she steps outside into the sunshine and moves on to go to the store. And she was buzzing. She could feel that butterflies in herself while she's on the way to the store. And the anticipation, she starts, oh, there's this beautiful cake and it's red velvet. And she can actually already taste that in her taste buds. She's dreaming of that taste. It's so smooth and sweet. And that smoothness and sweetness spreads from the first bite. And now she's thinking of Earl and how much he would enjoy the cake. So she goes in the store and her stomach drops. The store just had been robbed. All the shelves are empty and there's nothing. And she's devastated and shattered, and her beautiful cake just fell into pieces. Speechless. Ground is shaking. A local is walking by and he says, hey, I just opened up this new store around the corner. I do chocolate. What's up with you? And so she goes with him, finds beautiful chocolate, and delivers the cake, and feels this beautiful relief inside of her, thinking of her.
Thank you. I think everybody is hungry now at the end of the story. And I think you actually also played with the technique from the even group without knowing. But thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank you also for stepping up and sharing. Okay, I'm very curious what would the other group, so the even groups, what would they guess your technique was? But we will share them in a bit. Let's just hear also one story from the even group. So spinning the dramatic wheel. And again, you can say if you prefer not to share. Group 4, do we know who that is?
Hello. So I was part of group 4 with my colleagues here.
Cool.
Hi, I'm here as well.
Hi.
Would you be
So,
okay to read your story?
yes, but
Cool.
let me just find it. And it was the same with Leah and the cake. So uh, Leah imagined the perfect day. Her best friend, George, is coming back from working in the Bahamas and she has not seen him for 3 years. She decided to bake something special for his return. His favorite cake is coffee and walnut, and she has 5 more hours until he arrives. She heads to the store, imagining the smells and wonderful taste of the cake. She starts buying the ingredients: flour, sugar, eggs, vanilla extract. But where are the walnuts? Her basket is full, but she cannot find the most important ingredient, the walnuts. George's favorite. She asks the store manager, but unfortunately they are out. This is devastating for Leah. She does not know what to do now. She has not enough time to go to another store. Her idea for a big surprise is ruined. Then the store manager comes up with a great idea. You could try cashew instead, he said. Leah hesitated, but she smiled. It will be delicious, she confirmed. George was really surprised with the cake, but when he opened the box, he asked, "Does this have cashew? I developed an allergy while I was away." Leah's heart dropped, and that's it.
Wow, the unexpected drama.
Yeah, a lot of drama.
Thank you. Cool, thank you so much. I think we have time for one more or maybe even two more stories. Do you want to hear more, or you want to be left at peace? Not. Let's see one more, and then if again if your group is picked and you don't feel like sharing, that's totally okay as well. Group 20.
Hey, how's all doing, guys? So there was four in our group. I'm sure the rest of them will all pitch in and say hello there as well. I'll do the talking because I think I done the typing. So we chose the train station story, and as a group, we decided that it just offered more opportunity for a bit of drama and a bit of. I think we all agreed that we all lived in areas that we didn't have trains, so we thought, yeah, that'll make sense. So. And just in terms of the brief, we were given three lines, and you did mention that you would like us to sort of expand it to seven. So we took that really as sandwiching some context and some drama into the existing three lines. So we built out a line before and then subsequently a line in between each, and then a closing line at the end, just to try and frame the story off. So in the train station story, and let me just see where we had. So Mark needed to catch a train, so he went to the station. Someone at the station told him his platform had changed. He found the right platform, got on the train, and sat down. And that was the ingredients we were given for our story. So we've built out a bit of context by sort of giving some reason as to why Mark needed to catch his train. So Mark was an Irish entrepreneur responsible for an innovative coffee brand, and he was on a German business trip traveling solo. He was meeting a very important client for the first time, and he knew the reputation of his new company was solely in his hands. Mark needed to catch a train, so he went to the station. He left his hotel early in the morning. It was a cool September morning. He made it to the station in good time and felt comfortable about his day, about how his day was going to go. When he reached the station, he realized that the entrance was blocked off by emergency services due to an incident, and he had to follow signs that took him down an alley that looked like it was used mainly for service use. It smelled bad and it was fairly gloomy. Someone told him that the platform had changed, so it built out context there as well. As he arrived at his platform, he realized that he still had time for a coffee and began to look around for a kiosk. The smell of the fresh roast filled crisp autumn air, so he knew there was a coffee shop nearby. When queuing up, he overheard two students behind him in the queue explain that the platform for their train had changed. The only reason this caught Mark's ear was because he was on the same train. The students started to freak out and in typical student style, began grabbing for their baggage and took off running for the escalator. Mark made it to the train door just as the train was about to leave, and he made his way into a seat with beads of sweat forming on his brow. He sat breathing heavily, considering how close he just came to risking the future of his company, all for a coffee. How ironic. He felt good, relaxed, and had comfort in feeling that things were going to go his way.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you also for stepping up to read it out. Cool. So quite a different stories. I think one exercise that could also be very fun to keep on developing these could also be to play where to shorten it, where to lengthen it. But now maybe I'm already stepping a bit too far into what else we could play and explore with the stories. I'm wondering, should we do one more, or we should move on and wrap up what were we actually doing in each of the groups? Any preferences? Feel free to speak up in chat. We have one more, and I'm united by drama. Okay, let's do one more. So one odd group, if they will be up for it. Let's hope it's another train story, so we have two, but let's see. Group 7, do we still have someone? And do you want to share?
Yeah, I'm part of group 7.
Cool. Are you okay to
Yes. Yes, yes,
tell
yes.
us everything?
Oh, it was a really great group. So, I think we worked really well together. Kind of a short story. Okay, we did get the train story as well. Um, Mark just had a relaxing holiday, but it's Sunday and he has to work the next day. Still in his flip-flops, sand on his feet, he runs to the station. Coffee in hand, he grimaces as some hot liquid lands all over his shirt. Scanning the monitors, Mark feels his heart start to pound as he cannot find the platform. No, 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 this can't be happening. I need to catch my flight, otherwise I won't make my presentation on Monday. Panting, coffee covered, sweat dripping down his back, he bumps into a station worker who tells him that the platform has changed. Just as the doors are about to close, he narrowly makes the train and finds a seat. With a sigh of relief, he smiles, but then it quickly turns to dread when he realizes that he left his ticket at the hotel. And that's it.
The ending surprised, like was a bit sudden.
Surprise ending.
But cool. Thank you so much, Laura, for sharing. Awesome.
Yeah.
4 very different stories. I want to also thank you and congratulate to everyone. So Ludwig and Anka and Niall and Laura for stepping up to share your stories. Because to be honest, that's one of the toughest part of being a storyteller. It's just, to actually always talk about a story that in a way to us it never feels good enough and we never feel confident enough and we always wonder, oh, will it actually be interesting for other people, and we are haunted by doubts and so on. And then in the end, practically every story, if it has a bit of these elements of engagement, it captures attention and it serves the purposes that we named at the beginning. So thank you for stepping up to share that. Okay, now let's discover what were we actually doing here. So in the group 1 or in group 1, 3, 5, in all the odd groups, you were actually working with enriching story with sensory details. And this is just one, again, of many things that we can do with the story. But as I promised at the beginning, is one that really gives us a lot of value for like small price. It's not a big investment to just think of few sensory details that we can add, and it enriches the story hugely. It makes it more vivid. It makes it easier for people to imagine and to engage and step into the shoes of character in that story. So when we think about sensory details, we can really think about all the different senses and also emotions, but in that we want to be as specific and tangible as we can. So we want to think, what does this character see specifically? Not like beautiful view, but view that's this and that and this color and these kind of details and these kind of textures. We really want to name specific details. And we can also work out with sounds and different sensations in the body or sense of touch. What did they touch and how did it feel? Was it warm? Was it cold? Was it sharp? And so on. It can also be emotions, but ideally we want to place emotions also in the body. Like we had a lot of stomach drops in Ludwig's and Rachel's story, and jumps and drops. We can also work with different scents and movements and flavors, but we really want to put story into the body, right? That's the idea. So that's probably also the quickest hack. If you have a story you need to make more engaging really fast, you do need to check, is my structure maybe broken? Do I have some sort of conflict, some sort of desire and obstacle? But apart from that, this is one of the first things we can really jump in and go to enrich it a bit. And then the second one we played with in the other set of groups was about the contrast. And this one is a bit more straightforward and sometimes even a bit more difficult. But it's really about how the story becomes tense and impactful and with suspense and engaging when there is strong contrast between things within that story. And the contrast really builds on that basics of conflict and tension that we have as a theme of the story, as the structure. But it's elaborating that contrast, making it stronger, making it more vivid, making it more emotional. That's where we actually get the tension. And we can do that in 2 ways. One of them is that we can simply make contrast bigger. That means we can elaborate how much they care about this thing, how much they're emotionally invested, what a big stakes there are, existing around this, and then also how difficult it is for them. And we can simply elaborate on both sides, also with sensory details and with other things, to strengthen that big overarching contrast. But we can also play into series of small contrast. Now they're in, now they're out. Like what you had with Peter in my second story, which is kind of like, he didn't want to go to the forest out of warm bed, but then he did decided to go. And then when he came, for a moment it was adventure and enchanting, but then for another moment it was scary. So it was like I played there into few time contrasting things instead of building big drama on one contrast. And we can use both. When we say contrast, the question is between what? And it can be between before and after. The world before this drama and the world after. The hero before this event and after that event. The image that we build that's before the problem shows up or before the resolution, but in some way before and after. You can imagine here the scene at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, not the first one, but like Shire, this very happy, jolly, green place, and then the dark side, right? That's example of contrast. But it can also be difference between expectations and reality. Somebody mentioned Wall-E, the friendly, cute robot. At the beginning, that's one where his expectations were sometimes clashing with the reality. So we also have that one that we can play into. And then also just in general, struggle and success, problem and achieving something in the end, obstacle and in some way succeeding. We could play into more variations of these, but you could really like already build so much just on these two. Now, there is definitely much more to discover in the world of storytelling. So I do want to invite you into a few things. One, I want to invite you to take these two techniques and to already use them like really, really soon in your stories, because they will really, they get easier and better with practice, and they give a lot. So just try to add on, sprinkle a little bit of that on top. Second thing, I will share with you links to some follow-up materials. If you want to like sign up, I can send you the link to this Miro board. I can also send you a list of the few podcast episodes. You can also find them on your own, but if you want to shortcut it. In few podcast episodes on Trainers Toolbox, I think there are at least 4 related to storytelling. I explored different angles. So they're not like full-on techniques, but they're a bit like today, different angles of what we can build. If instead of that, you would be curious to really dive in deep in more coherent journey, you can also check or get in touch and ask and explore if maybe you also want to join me for a full training on storytelling, which is 2 days long or equivalent in online space through multiple modules, where we really dive in deep, both in these two and another 6 techniques. And we, on one side, add new elements and techniques to the list we added here, many, many more. Then we also practice it a lot, both individually on your stories and a bit in small groups. And then we also practice them by getting personal, very detailed feedback on our storytelling. So it's truly immersive space where for 2 days we dive in really deep and explore many, many other techniques. You can find more on the QR link. I will also add the link in the chat if you would like to explore more on that. And then finally, you can also explore some great books. I shared more of them in the podcast, but I also shared the 3 today, right? For the bootcamp, it's happening in October in Florence, tentatively in July in London, and online. So that's kind of 3 options that exist that you can engage with. You can learn more on the link in the chat or in the link on the link where you sign up for materials. You'll also get a bit more info on the course. Now, before we split off, I still want to invite you for one thing, and that is to take a moment to reflect on these 2 questions. Where could storytelling really elevate your training, workshops, facilitation, work, business, whatever that was motivation behind you joining today? And then also, what is one small step that you can take to really put this more in practice? And I do want to invite you to really just take that minute to reflect on these before you disconnect, because ultimately what we want to do is we really want to think, how are we putting this in practice? How are we really incorporating it? How are we taking it into action? And I'll just give you 20 seconds to think, and then we will still share what were the main learnings, just briefly as a checkout, what were the main learnings for today. And in the meantime, you can also grab the links from chat. You can also find in the chat the sign up for materials, more info about the course, and then also you can find me on LinkedIn if we are not connected yet, to connect there. Okay, I do want to invite you, if you are ready to take off, before you take off, to just share a word or 2 in chat. What was your main insight for today? That will also give me valuable feedback of what are you taking away. So just one word, 1 sentence in chat. What is your main insight for today? And with that, I will also stop the recording. And then I'll still stay here if anybody has questions or something you want to share. No, we didn't have a lot of space for that with so many people, but I still want to give you a chance for that, and also off recording to make it a bit more safe space. So just a second to